Hi, welcome back. I am here with, as promised, with Liz Wergin from Juniper Physical Therapy, owner and physical therapist. And as I spoke in the last video, we are going to talk about a specific SNP or a single nucleotide polymorphism that can change and affect your risk of injury. And then Liz is going to walk us through how we can personalize our lifestyle recommendations to keep you as safe as possible, or maybe you've already experienced this injury and what she can help to do to treat that. So really quick, I just want to talk about how I got my information about my alleles and my SNPs. And if those words sound crazy to you, just watch the previous video. I've briefly explained it. So I got my genetic raw data by doing an ancestry kit. So that's really just ancestry.com is the place I went to get my raw data. You send a 1/4 teaspoon of saliva in the mail and they email you back your results about where you've come from, etc. I didn't really care about that. What I wanted was my genetic data. Then I took that and ran that through my reports, which through Pure Genomics. That's the place that I use to get some information. I also use a couple other reports to get information for myself. But what I found is I have everyone has a gene called COL5A1. It's not a pretty name. None of this stuff is. Within that, I have a SNP that has some variation, specifically the allele itself. So that's 2 different base pairs. My base pair gives me this a specific variation that is associated with an increased risk of tendon or ligament injury. So I find that fascinating, and I asked Liz to talk to me about what I can do to provide prevention, and also what is a tendon, what is a ligament. So we're going to start with some of those basic questions. So Liz, tell me, what is a tendon? What is a ligament? How are they different?
Okay, a tendon is basically the end of a muscle. It's how a muscle tapers down and attaches to the bone. It's responsible for moving joints and getting our body to move. It's supposed to be springy and bouncy and elastic. A ligament is another structure that connects bone to bone. So it's really more responsible for stability. So it's going to be, people are really familiar with ankle ligaments because they seem to get damaged the most, but they basically connect all different bones together. So they're more stability, where tendons are more mobility.
Interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. And tell me, you did mention some ankle stuff there. You know so much about this and I don't, so thank you so much. Tell me about some common tendon and ligament injuries. What are the most familiar to us? What are things we might have heard of? Maybe like an Achilles or something?
Sure. I see a ton of tendon and ligament injuries because I really specialize in people who are active. And some common ones are shoulder tendinopathies, and the word tendinopathy really just means an issue with the tendon. So I see shoulder tendinopathies, people kind of call them tendinitises, rotator cuff impingement, or tendinitis. Another tendon injury that's super common is Achilles tendinopathy. Okay. So that's your Achilles tendon by your foot and ankle. That's the one I'm going to spend most of the time talking about. And then ligament injuries are ankle sprains for sure. And then very common knee ligament injuries like your ACL, MCL, LCL, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, interesting.
Those are the ones I see the most probably.
So it's so fascinating to me that I have this SNP because I did tear my ACL when I was young and had to have it repaired. Yeah.
Interesting.
So I'm wondering, is there a connection? And if I had this information when I was younger, could I have modified my physical activity routine to strengthen my tendon and ligaments? I just
that is if you're
stuff.
A really good high school student too.
Right? Had to be really forward thinking at that point. But
yeah.
who knows? Who knows what we can do with this information? I just find it so fascinating. So tell me, are there different types of tendon injuries, or are they all kind of the same, or ligament injuries?
Okay, well, we'll just talk about tendons today.
Okay.
I think that'll be easier.
Sounds good.
For tendons, you can have a tendinitis or a tendinosis. So a tendinitis is more of an acute inflammatory process. Usually there's some swelling involved, maybe some redness or pinkness in the tissue. Happens, for so many different reasons, but it's more, you treat it differently than you would a tendinosis. A tendinosis is when it's a chronic degenerative condition that's been going on and on for a long time.
Oh, wow.
And what happens with a tendinosis is the structure of the actual tendon changes. At a microscopic level, they can see that the fibers are no longer linear. And sometimes you get like, looks like scar tissue or like a bump. Really common one is a pump bump. I don't even know if anyone uses that word anymore, but it's that bump you get behind your heel that some people will have. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I've never seen it, but I've heard people talk about it.
Yeah, so that's
so
a really good example of a tendinosis. So basically, when you're taking care of your tendons, acute injuries are much easier to manage. When it becomes tendinosis, I can still take care of it. It just takes a little bit longer.
Oh, wow.
Then there's also ruptures, like partial tears and full thickness tears, of course. Completely different strategy for those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what causes these things?
Okay, so whether it's an inflammatory tendinitis or a tendinosis, oftentimes it's just related to a ramping up of an activity too fast. I like to treat runners, so something that's very common in runners is also they increase their mileage really fast or get a faster pace or do a huge hill workout. Sudden change in activity can cause inflammation or tendinitis. Change in footwear. Common one for me is when flats became super popular. When I start to wear flats for too long, I get Achilles tendinitis.
Oh, yeah.
Or if I spend a day in
I
heels.
bought those ridiculous 5-finger beavers.
Yeah.
So like gloves for your feet.
Yeah.
Totally give me what I'm guessing now after talking to you is tendinitis.
Probably. So I don't want to say that those are bad. It's
Right.
just usually if you're not accustomed to those, you have to transition into something like that at a slower pace. Gosh, those are the main things. If you have flat feet, you're more predisposed to it as well. Versus, and I guess if your foot is really supinated or high arches, you could as well. But more commonly, I hear of the pronated or flatter foot position is more of a problem.
Okay.
So those are common injuries or reasons for it.
All right. Well, I think that is all we have for today, but why don't you tell us what we're going to be focusing on our next video related to the variation that I found in my genetic data.
Okay, so I want to talk about how to prevent Achilles tendinitis or tendinopathies, and really a little more details about that. I'll talk about footwear, I'll talk about, I forgot to mention that tightness in your calf or weak calf muscles can also be a cause, so we'll talk about how to take care of that. In the second video. In the third video, I really want to talk a little bit more specifics on treatment. So if you're somebody who already has this condition going on, I want to talk about what you can do to take care of it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. This was really, really valuable. I appreciate your time. All right, guys, tune in. Watch for our next few videos on how you can modify your lifestyle to fit your genetics so you can protect yourself and be as active for as long as possible. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thank you.